Welcome to Real Judaism with Rabbi Klapper. Unfiltered wisdom for Jewish life.
So, just going to go over the last few points here at Tefillin again. At the very end of Tefillin, we were comparing Shabbos to Tefillin, and we were saying that the whole idea of Tefillin is that we're actually connecting the Shem of Hashem to a person. That's why it needs to be in the boxes. That's why it has to be leather. That's why it has to be black. Each one of those things is a way of creating a mechitza, a barrier that can contain the Shem Hashem and yet can still allow us to connect to it. Like we discussed last week, a mechitza, when you put up a mechitza, what's the point of a mechitza? The point of a mechitza is not to exclude, it's to include. If we wouldn't have a mechitza, then women couldn't come to shul at all. So we make a mechitza, and that allows a woman to come to shul. That's the purpose. When we have walls, it allows things to be able to be done on the inside. That's the purpose of the wall. By excluding things, we are actually including them. We are making you the ability to do something because of the walls. This is what's discussed very much in the beginning of Masechus Baba Basra, when it talks about Hezek Re'iyah, when it talks about the damages that are done because people are looking at me in my yard. If I had free privacy in my yard, then I could do anything I want in my yard. Right? Somebody wants to put a pool down in their yard. You know, so they don't want the whole world looking at them when they're going swimming. So they're putting up fences around it. So the fences, the mechitzas are there to actually allow them to do things. That's what the wall's for. When you put up, if your whole house was made of glass, right? That's why they say people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones because they'll break their house. But besides for that, everybody can see what you're doing. Then it doesn't give you the freedom to do whatever you want. It doesn't allow for the pneumius to get to its fullest extent. So that's what's happening with Tefillin. Tefillin is the Shem Hashem, and we want to connect the Shem Hashem to every Jewish man. But you can't just do that; you would die. You can't just connect. So we need to create mechitzas. And the mechitza holds within it the Shem Hashem and yet allows you to be connected to you. That's why you said black and is after the skin of a behemoth. These are things that encompass, that hold in, and therefore have the ability to connect it to you, the Shem Hashem. But now, how does that compare to Shabbos? Like we said already way back many shurim ago. Shabbos, we don't wear tefillin. You don't need tefillin. Why not? Because Shabbos is also an ois. Meaning when we're wearing tefillin, we're wearing the ois of Hashem on us. So when we have Shabbos, what do we have? We have Hashem with us. And that's here in the second to last paragraph on Daf Kuf Ches. Aval Mahu Shabbos Kodesh Mitad Echad Ketfilin Akshurim L'Rosh V'Lev. On one hand, Shabbos, being in Shabbos, is like having tefillin connected to us. Because the ois of Shabbos, that Hashem created the world, and that we are Hashem's chosen nation, we have that on Shabbos. Aval me'idach, on the other hand, it's not, there's no mechitza. There isn't anything that's separating us from the Shem Hashem. It's like see-through tefillin. Yeah, glass tefillin, k'viyochol, where there is no separation between the Shem of Hashem and Hashem himself and Klal Yisrael. Mamela ein achanami. Kol Yehudi niyah biyom hazeh k'Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai shetoras umanuso. Every Yid on Shabbos is like Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. That the Torah is his profession, meaning that he is totally dovuk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ve'eino oizek b'chai shal klal. He's not involved with the things in this world. When Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai came out of the cave the first time after 12 years, and he saw people involved with Olam Hazeh, he would burn everybody up. Like, how could you possibly be involved with Olam Hazeh? It doesn't make any sense. That's how he was so dovuk. And Hashem said to him, "You came out to destroy my world. Get back inside." And what did he learn in the last year? He learned that there is a purpose for Olam Hazeh also. Hashem wants there to be an Olam Hazeh. Hashem wants there to be an Olam Hazeh. So, but on Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba. Shabbos, we're talking connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a completely different plane. Tefillin shel Shabbos oisim shvita gemura shel kol ha'olam. The tefillin of Shabbos is encompassing the whole world. There's a rest in the whole world. Kishishem Kodesh v'noira kosher l'moich v'lalev denotin shvita lo'olam and malo l'hof kol olam haba. It turns the entire world into olam haba. We're connected to Hashem through the Tefillin known as Shabbos. The Shem Hashem is honest like Shabbos. The person's face looks different. We look different on Shabbos. Shabbos abehiras v'hatzveko shel Shem Hashem kashur el moicho shel Yehudim u'bokea derech rosho. It shines through his face. Upana meiros ketzeis Hashem is b'gburo. So maybe we don't realize this because we got so used to it. But there are many stories that, even in the last 100 years, of goyim who couldn't look at people's faces even on Shabbos. They couldn't. They looked different. Somebody different. Like they saw a gadol. I think they say this about Yerucham, if I'm not mistaken, that he looked different on Shabbos. You're coming to see him on Shabbos. Well, I want to see that man, so I come back during the week. Where is he? He's not here. He's not the same person. We have it's a different face. We maybe don't recognize it because we're used to it already. Similar to like Moshe Rabbeinu had his face was shining. Mamish. The Klal Yisrael couldn't look. They couldn't look at it. But he himself, it didn't bother him. He just realized that it would bother them. And before the Chet of the Ego, even the Shechina didn't bother them. It says that they were basking in the Shechina and they were eating and drinking. There was a certain level of like, this is normal. This is a normal thing. So Shabbos is on that level. We learn from Hilchas Tefillin about Shabbos. Tefillin ikar dinam liyot kshurim keshel kayama vasura behesach hadas. Kain a Shabbos kodesh. We have to have a kesher shel kayama, meaning there is a knot that has to be tied both on the shel yad and on the shel rosh. That has to be a kesher shel kayama, and you can't have hesach hadas when you're wearing tefillin. It's the same thing by Shabbos. You have to be connected completely to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from the moment Shabbos starts till the moment Shabbos ends. There's nothing breaking you, and you can't have hesach hadas. We can't just start talking about our business on Shabbos. We have to be totally connected to Hashem. The Shabbos and the Chol is not the same thing. You can't talk the same way. It has to be different. It has to be like a different world. There's no shaykhs, to say Nish Shabbos Geret and then say whatever you want, right? You're not supposed to say this on Shabbos, but I'll say it anyway, right? It doesn't give you a heter to say it. It's like saying, are you Shomer Negiah or are you not Shomer Negiah? It's like, it's an optional. Or you say the magic words and all of a sudden everything becomes mutter.
I mean, it's not a problem to say to my woman.
Right, so, but I'll say it anyway, right? Right? So, that Shabbos is completely different. When we're with Hashem, we have Hashem's name on us, we have to act differently. And maybe that's part of the reason why we don't necessarily feel Shabbos as much, because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. The reason why we don't feel this shine, we don't feel the difference, is because I'm treating Shabbos to a certain degree in the same way that I'm treating the week. If I have a very important thing that I want to talk with a guy, it happens to be a business thing, but I only really get to see him on Shabbos, so am I going to take that opportunity to speak to him on Shabbos about it? It's a nisayon. It's definitely a nisayon. It's not pleasure. The best practical eitzah is creating hitraglut, meaning to make it regular, to make a routine. Meaning, when
Monday, I don't make a routine for.
No, what I mean to say is like this. Right now, I'm spending a little time, working on tshuva. Right, we're here on Saturday, made tshuva, and everybody hopefully has been working on themselves, thinking about like what can I do better and how can I do things better. But there are really two parts of tshuva. One part to tshuva is, you could say, the easier part, but for a lot of people it's the harder part, and that is the decision to change. I'm going to be different. That is something that really doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes an internal. It's something you can do in a second, but you really have to mean it. And if you don't really mean it, so then it's meaningless. Then it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. But that could just take 1 second. That's all it could be. I am coming to a decision that I'm going to be different in topics A, B, and C. I'm deciding right now, I'm going to work on the following things that I know that I need help with, and I'm going to change. I'm going to be different. That's the first part of tshuva. You already did the first part. You're already a person who's in the process of doing tshuva. That, according to Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, is already good enough to be called being oisik in tshuva, and that's a big schus for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's a big schus. And a person, even if they don't deserve life, can get life anyway on credit if they are doing that already. That's already a big schus if a person is doing that. The second half, which for many people is the harder half, is, well, now you actually have to do it. Well, how do I do that? If I have bad habits, that I do these bad habits all the time, let's say, like, I talk about the wrong things on Shabbos. I talk about things I shouldn't be talking about on Shabbos. How can I accustom myself to not? So one thing we can do is, well, do I always talk about these things with certain people? If it's the same one or two people that I talk with, that it's always the wrong thing. Maybe it's kedai to avoid those people on Shabbos. That's a step. I know that whenever I speak to them, we speak about things that aren't appropriate for Shabbos. So what's the best thing to do? Avoid them. And they might say, why are you avoiding me? You might meet them with them. Why are you avoiding? I'm not avoiding you. Yeah, we used to shmooze every Shabbos, right? After shul, during shul, whatever it is, right? What happened to you? I just want to know, I'm working on my Shabbos, that's all. So maybe you could actually be Makar that person too. The key is to be mitragel in it, meaning to become accustomed to it, to make it regular. The more you build up time after time, again, it becomes easier. You have to do that. You have to make it regular. So you have to figure out where are the problems, try to avoid the problems, try to think of solutions for those problems. Each person is different. Where are the problems? Problems could be at the Shabbos Suda. The problems could be in shul, after shul. The problems can be when you go out on Shabbos afternoon. The problems can be anywhere. But a person has to acknowledge where they are, identify where they are, and think of, for each person, their own creative solutions. What can I do during those times? Sometimes it's difficult, but I have to just stop doing certain things. I have to stop going to certain places. I have to stop talking to certain people. And that might be very, very difficult. Or I should purposely try to make a plan of what I will talk about instead. I'm going to talk about this and this instead of talking about that and that. I'll make a plan, actively make a plan. And it might sound contrived in the beginning, but as soon as you get used to it, again, it becomes much, much simpler. As long as a person is really, really interested in doing it, they'll find ways. Hashem will send siyata d'shmaya to find ways. And then we'll feel Shabbos a lot more. If a person does have hesech hadas, and he doesn't have that kesher shel kayamo, he's not completely double to Hashem, he's thinking and talking about other things, so then, it's much harder to connect to Shabbos. So that's one of the eights of what we can do. Okay, now, we're going to start now the next parak. The next parak is about the Beis HaMikdash. This parak is long. It's very long, but it is amazing. It's an amazing, amazing parak. Because we don't even realize that on Shabbos we mamish have the Beis HaMikdash with us. We mamish have the Beis HaMikdash. Not just in this parak, but in many other places in the Sefer, he comes back to this idea that Shabbos is like the Beis HaMikdash. Shabbos is like the Beis HaMikdash. So we really, on Tisha B'Av, we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. You know what a Beis HaMikdash is? Shabbos is a Beis HaMikdash. So we can't have a Beis HaMikdash. Shabbos. The whole point of the Beis HaMikdash is the Gilui Shechina, is to connect to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is here with us. A Kodesh Baruch Hu is here with us. When? On Shabbos. We just have to connect to it. So here, let's begin. Besifrei HaKadmonim kosu she'inyan bayis hu echad mikinuim hamalchus. Again, when he talks about Sifrei Kadmonim, we're talking about very holy svarim. So maybe Kabbalah. So they bring that the word bayis is also another way of saying Malchus. We said Malchus way back in the beginning, Chelek Aleph, Malchus. We were describing how a Kodesh Baruch Hu comes into the world. What does it mean that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is coming into the world? We see that there's this connection between Malchus and a house. What is this? Habir b'pshuto. What is the explanation? You need a house. We need a house. We need a house to live in. A house is not the same thing as food or drink, right? When a person eats or drinks and the food goes into his body, it gives him koyach, it gives him life. The house is not like that. It doesn't give him life, the house. The house is not going into his goof and giving him energy. He doesn't have a house, he can't create a home, right? Chassan over here, he's going to have a house, he's going to create a home. You need to have a place in order to create that home, right? Sometimes you'll have a young couple. I know at least one young couple like this, but this stories like this happen all the time, that they get thrown out of their apartment, right? Unfortunately, this does happen here, that you have a couple, all of a sudden their Baldira decides they're selling the apartment, get out. Now what are we going to do?
They're up to date with their rent.
Up to date with their rent, 100%. Everything is fine, great. One day they got a knock on the door, you have 30 days to leave the apartment, right? Not tomorrow. I mean, that would be real achzarias to do. But you have 30 days to leave your apartment. Now, where do they go? Where do they go? A lot of times it's very, very hard to find a new place. So you know where they go? They move in with their parents. That's very hard. That's very hard on the couple because they need to build their own home. In order to build their own home, they have to have a place to do that. They need a bias. They need a house to build their own home. To live in somebody else's home is extraordinarily difficult. I lived in somebody else's home for a span of about 3 months with 3 little kids. It was extraordinarily difficult. Extraordinarily difficult. It was a very, very difficult tekufa at that time. And at the time it was the right thing to do, but it was very, very hard. You need a house in order to build your home. The way it used to be once upon a time when HaKodesh Baruch Hu created man is that you're supposed to live forever. That's what you're supposed to do. But after the Chet of Adam Rishon, we personally don't have nitzchias. We can't live forever. But there is a certain form of carrying on to the next generation, right? The Torah and Yiddishkeit and the Jewish people are nitzchi, are forever. I personally am not, but I'm part of the chain that will carry on forever. So we still have this idea. There is no other nation in the world like this, right? They can say from beginning till end, they've been here. Right, the ancient Romans are gone. The ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks, the ancient Chinese, all of these cultures are gone. They don't exist anymore. What's still left over here? The Jewish people, because the Jewish people are nitzchi. Koloshen Rambam beigeret shelo yibna adam lipache min hamaves ad shikanes lechuppah v'nimsa sheyofi hanister shelo adam. Meaning, the Rambam is coming to say that a person really, generally, does not fear from death. Doesn't have a real fear of death until after he gets married. Because all of a sudden now I have something real. I have something real that I care about. Now I have the opportunity to, excuse me, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. That a person should be scared of death until he gets married. Because once he gets married, he has the opportunity to get to nitzchis. He has the opportunity to carry on, meaning until a man gets married. So, unfortunately, if a person dies without any children, what does he carry on with? What future legacy does he leave over? Unfortunately, in the history of Klal Yisrael, there have been very great gedolim who never had any children. One of them was the Chazon Ish, who never had any children, but the Chazon Ish's legacy lives on till today, and it probably will live on to nitzchis because he left over for us a legacy of Torah and avodas Hashem and mahalach in life. And like we say, v'shinantam levanecha, you should teach your children, is referring to your students. That's how we learn. V'shinantam levanecha is talking about your talmidim. But generally, a person sees his nitzchias, his eternity in his children. So once he gets married and he can create that nitzchias, that eternity, so then he doesn't have to fear for death. Why? Because even if I die, but there will be somebody who will carry on beyond me. But this cannot exist unless unless you have a home, unless you have a house. Once you have a home, then you can all your potential. This is a great chassan Torah. Yeah, all your potential can be realized. All your potential once you have a home, right? That's why the Gemara in the Maseches Yevamos talks about how a person who doesn't have a wife is shar below bracha, shar below choima, shar below a number of different things that it says you don't have Torah, you don't have bracha, you don't have choima, there's so many things that the man doesn't have until he gets married. Once he gets married, so now he has all those things. He has all the potential to build his home, to build his nitzchias. Nimses, what comes out. Really, the house itself is just an empty shell. Everything in the house is just potential. That's what it is. It's a kli. It's a vessel by which he can take his own potential and make it reality. This is the same thing that we discussed about Malchus that we mentioned before, that the koyach of the melech in the world. Meaning the melech is what takes all the pieces together, makes them real. It's the same thing with every home. The home is what has the ability to make everything real. It's the same thing when it comes to the Beis HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash Hashem Yisbarach mashkin Shechina so ba'olam u'meitiv betuvo es tachlis ha'atov v'chesed. That it's through the Beis HaMikdash that a Kodesh Baruch Hu can send shefa to the whole world, and he can bring out all the potential. Hashem's potential is endless. Hashem can do whatever he wants, but he wants that medium. He wants the place that through that channel, that's how I'm sending shefa to the world. And that channel should be a place in this world, here in the physical world in Olam Hazeh. Hashem wants to send through that channel. That's why he said all the bracha in the world came through the Beis HaMikdash. Everything, all the chacham in the world. That's what it says. That they bring in the name. The Ramah brings about this medrash that says that Greek philosopher. I don't remember which Greek philosopher it was. Maybe it was Philo. I don't remember. Saw Yirmiyahu Hanavi crying, and he said, I heard stories about you. You're like the greatest of the Jews. You're crying over a bunch of sticks and stones, right? Don't you have a higher, deeper things than just this physicality? And Yirmiyahu said to this Greek philosopher, and let me ask you, you're a philosopher. You have a lot of questions, don't you? You have a lot of deep philosophical questions. He says, yes, I do. I have a lot of very deep philosophical questions. He says, so ask me them. Ask me the questions. And they sat there, and Yirmiyahu Hanavi answered his questions one at a time. Boom, 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 boom. Wow, he was astounded. He said, a man like you I've never met before. It's unbelievable. And he said, everything I know came from these sticks and stones. Everything that I had came from these sticks and stones, and that's why I'm crying over it. That's why I'm crying over it. Because Hashem said bracha not only in the Gashmi, he sent bracha through everything. In our minds, in our hearts, in all of Gashmi, through the Beis HaMikdash. Hashem wants to bring it. He wants to bring His presence into this world, and give all of the tov there is. Shezeh mamish inyan midas hamalchus. The Melech has the ability to give everything, and that's exactly what Hashem wanted. Hashem wanted to give everything. That's the Beis HaMikdash. We're going to have to stop here, but we're going to see that's the same thing on Shabbos. Shabbos is the medium that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to send all shefa and bracha into the world.
Next part is there for people
next week. Hopefully, we will meet. I hope when it's going to be erev Sukkos next week. Everybody's busy. I know, like it says, everybody's busy. But Be'ez Hashem will meet. I hope if everybody's available. Be'ez Hashem will be quiet. It'll be a simchadik time. Be'ez Hashem, the week afterwards, I think during Chol HaMoed, I think we might take a break because usually people are very, very busy during that time. So what? That's right. Leil Shana Rabbah. So usually the Rav has something in his house. So we'll probably take a break for that week. And Hashem, hopefully we'll continue the week after that. That's also Ben Azmanim week. But we'll see. Maybe we might have to switch the day that week. So we'll see. Be'ez Hashem next week. Go.
Thank you for joining Real Judaism, where we explore Torah's wisdom for real life. Created by J Foundations and produced by Eli Podcast Productions. Find more episodes at realjudaism.org and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.